When corrupt cops meet the wrong person.
You're taking my Disability Act and you're throwing it in the garbage.
Today, we're diving into real-life stories where resilient individuals take a stand against abuse of power, turning the tables on those sworn to uphold the law. Imagine getting arrested for showing racist cops their place because you know your rights.
Hey, back up! Get out of my face! I don't want you to search my car.
On April 27, 2020, 25-year-old Kaylon Hill, who was taking classes remotely through Louisiana State University and has since then earned a master's degree in business administration, was heading home on I-25 when he got involved in a minor car accident. He was in the middle lane, and a driver in the first lane tried to merge over and hit his car. Kaylon ended up flagging the first driver down, moved to the shoulder, called 911, and told the dispatcher that he'd been in an accident. Paramedics quickly arrived at the scene, and they were speaking to Hill, still seated in his car.
Hey, Don! Trying to figure out what's going on with this.
Officers Thomas Ludwig and Gary Yampolsky then pulled up and surprisingly walked by Kaylon's vehicle and got a glimpse of Mr. Hill, then kept walking. Ludwig interviewed the two people in the other vehicle who were white men. They told him Kaylon had hit them trying to drive in between their vehicle and another vehicle. They portrayed him as a very hostile, aggressive person.
You guys are okay?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
What happened?
It's so weird, honestly. I changed lanes. I signaled and changed lanes a while back. After I was in the lane, he came in between me and the car that was in the lane. He was driving recklessly and just came right between us.
Did he get you on that side?
Yeah, on this side right here.
After Hill left his car to be checked out by the ambulance crew, Officer Ludwig opened up his car door and started to look for contraband. No warrant had been issued, and there was no reason to believe at that time that Kaylon had engaged in criminal activity.
I smell marijuana in there, that's why I'm in your car.
Seeing that, Kaylon said, "Hey, you can't search my car. You don't have a warrant." But Officer Ludwig, even though he could see Kaylon was visibly upset, didn't try to de-escalate the situation. He got right in Kaylon's face, then twisted his arm behind his back using a hyperflexing wrist lock, which is a pain compliance technique, even though Kaylon wasn't resisting in any way, and placed him under arrest.
Let's go. Out of the bus.
Documentation on this man.
Okay.
My fucking car.
Okay, let's go talk about it over here, man. Tell me what happened exactly. Hey, back up! Get out of my face! Get by your back!
After telling the cops multiple times that he didn't know whether he was injured or not, and would have to be checked out at the hospital to know for sure, the cops didn't care at all.
What is your name?
My name is Keelan. It's hard for me to determine if I'm injured at the moment.
If you're not injured from my officers.
It is hard for me to determine that at the moment. I have to go to the hospital. I just had a car wreck. I was just stabbed in the neck.
I didn't ask you about the car wreck. I asked you if my officers hurt you.
Sir, I called y'all about this car wreck that just happened. I was arrested and detained because of it.
Hill was then taken to Denver jail, where he was held for nearly 24 hours before being released on bond. He was charged with interference with police authority, a violation of city code. After he pled not guilty, the city attorney moved to dismiss the charge, which the court did. 2 days after being released from jail, Hill went to the hospital for a medical exam. He was diagnosed with a closed head injury, cervical strain of the thoracic region, a right shoulder injury, and paresthesia of his right upper limb. Hill sued the city of Denver, alleging 3 police officers racially profiled him, illegally searched his car, and violated his constitutional rights when they arrested him. The lawsuit was later settled by granting Kaylon $100,000 as payout money. Our next corrupt cop faced his worst nightmare when the suspect he wrongfully arrested turned out to be a Rhode Island attorney.
You do not touch me! Oh my God!
Claire Hall was driving on Route 1 in South Kingston on the afternoon of February 9, 2023, when she noticed an accident ahead of her. She pulled to the side of the road and checked to make sure the 2 drivers, ages 17 and 21, were all right. Hall then used her cell phone to help the 17-year-old to get in contact with his father. When officers Matthew White and Anthony Souza arrived on the scene, They quickly became frustrated with what they construed as Halls' refusal to comply with their orders, which one of the officers characterized as impeding their investigation.
I'm on the phone with this time.
Dad, it's my dad. But how many cars are involved right now?
Not mine. That's mine.
All right, let's. We need to get that off the road. Can we get that into the parking lot?
Yeah.
We'll take care of him, man.
I'm just trying to tell his father. So,
Okay, well, we're in the middle of the highway.
The confrontation got heated pretty fast and turned physical as Claire was taken to the ground using excessive force and then put in handcuffs.
Oh my God! Are you
Stop! Stop!
No, I'm not stopping. Are you? No, you recorded this.
It's recording.
Record it.
I'm wearing a body cam.
Record it. I understand, but why am I under arrest?
Because you weren't listening to anything we were saying.
In the lawsuit Hall filed on August 31st, she alleged that she suffered injuries to her shoulders, teeth, breasts, and bladder, along with psychological damage, emotional distress, embarrassment, humiliation, and loss of bodily functions when she was assaulted, restrained, forcefully thrown to the ground, and had a knee placed on her body before she was handcuffed.
You guys, where do you get this machismo shit? This is I need my phone. It's on the ground over there. Call my husband. He's also an attorney.
Go ahead, get it.
This is so bad. I can't even.
The phone's right here.
Oh, surprise!
Hall, who was charged with 3 misdemeanors, also alleged that, while being transported in a cruiser, White told her that he had stopped recording with his body camera, which she interpreted as an attempt to intimidate her by letting her know that anything that occurred thereafter could no longer be corroborated by video. Hall is claiming a violation of her civil rights, assault, battery, unlawful arrest, and unlawful prosecution. Hall's husband, James, is suing for a loss of consortium. This cop thought that he could bully a disabled woman by pressing unnecessary charges against her, but she wasn't one to back down without a fight. After a night of karaoke with friends in Brookings, Oregon on November 19, 2018, Jennifer Gaiman, 50, started to make her way home on her mobility scooter, a device she's reliant on for transportation due to her multiple disabilities. 2 cops stopped her and started accusing Jennifer of using her scooter on a sidewalk, failing to walk it across a crosswalk, and not wearing a helmet. Low-level offenses that triggered a dispute in which Gaiman repeatedly brought up her rights as a disabled person.
It's a mobile scooter. Okay, do you understand what that means? It's my mobile scooter. It's how I get around. I don't have a car.
You're lawfully detained right now. You are
For what?
literally. You see those red and blue lights?
For what, though?
Are you going to let me explain it?
Yeah, because you don't have a reason to. You're taking my disability act and you're throwing it in the garbage. This is my disability.
She challenged their contention as the officers could be seen on their body camera footage trying to search the internet to find the appropriate state law.
I'll look it up for you, just so you can know that I'm not messing with you and he's not messing
Okay,
with you.
so I'll let everybody know that you guys have bad laws in this town and that people
It's
that have
Oregon.
disabilities.
It's an Oregon
No, you know what?
department.
That's disabilities. These people ride these scooters for disability. You want them riding on the streets to get hit by a car? You kidding me?
The cops then proceeded to cite her on multiple offenses, including unsafe operation of a motor-assisted scooter, before telling her that she couldn't ride her mobility device back to her residence without the proper protective headgear.
The person commits the offense of unsafe operation of a motor-assisted scooter on a sidewalk if the person operates a motor-assisted scooter on a sidewalk, except to enter or leave adjacent property, or the person operates a motor-assisted scooter on a sidewalk to enter or leave adjacent property, as to suddenly leave a curb or other place of safety, to move into the path of a vehicle that is close to constitute an immediate hazard.
Fed up and confident she had a legal right to use her mobility scooter, Gaiman continued to ride it home as she felt the confrontation was completely needless and unlawful, and it was freezing outside. The officers, in their patrol cars, then chased after Gaiman, traveling with emergency lights and sirens activated, driving about 15 miles an hour behind her for the next several minutes. They also radioed for backup, alleging Gaiman was eluding police.
So remember that part where I told her she's not allowed to drive without her helmet on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Station 5. We're passing Heritage. Of course, they'll continue it on 5th.
As Gaiman arrived home and entered her garage, officers surrounded her and arrested her. adding 2 charges: attempting to elude police and interfering with an officer.
You have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, I know.
Anything you say can will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any question if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements.
Curry County prosecutors took Gaiman to trial, and she was convicted of attempting to elude police. A judge sentenced her to 5 days in jail and 18 months of probation. Attorney Jacob Johnston, who was representing Gaiman in her civil suit, said the officers looked up state law on scooters, but didn't take into account how the law applies to a disabled woman. Jennifer Gaiman is seeking $500,000 in damages, plus a judgment for unspecified punitive damages under the federal suit filed in the U.S. District Court in Medford this week. The lawsuit contends the officers violated her rights under federal disabilities law, which says government municipalities must provide accommodations for people with disabilities who require the assistance of a mobility aid or device. And if you thought those cops knew nothing about the legal code, have a look, as these next ones went one step further and tried to make their own laws.
No. You're out in the public and people see you. That is called freedom of speech.
Jonathan Gisford was standing on the side of Route 13, south of Smyrna, on March 11, 2022, holding a handmade sign that said "Radar Ahead." The 54-year-old said he started the occasional protest after a run-in with a state trooper running a radar trap while blocking part of the road. He was approached by 2 officers, Stephen Douglas and Nicholas Gallo, who got into a verbal confrontation with him and incorrectly told him he could not stand on the side of the road with the sign.
I am engaged in a First Amendment activity that is protected by...
take the sign.
You are not taking my property.
Listen to me.
What's your badge number?
My badge number's right there, okay?
Is that what you tell the judge?
What?
Is that what you tell the judge?
Is what would I tell a judge?
Right there? I'm
Are you the
asking,
judge?
I'm
Are
asking
you the
for
judge?
your badge
My
number.
badge number's right there.
He presented logical arguments to the officers' completely illogical statements, and they were eventually left speechless.
I am not blocking the roadway. I am not in the roadway.
You're not
I haven't
blocking
jumped
it,
in the
but you're
roadway.
disrupting traffic.
No, I'm
if
not.
you go on
No, I'm
to see
not.
the sign.
Oh, so when you pull people over with radar, you're disrupting traffic because they're slowing down.
After a botched attempt by Douglas to snatch the sign, Gallo yanked it from Gisford's grasp and ripped it apart. He made sure to let the officers have a piece of his mind.
Do not give me my property back, you piece of. Give me my property back. You see this, you tyrant piece of.
As Gisford left, he flipped the officers off, prompting the officers to follow him. They were joined by Master Corporal Rayford Box, who identified himself as a supervisor and promised to lock up Gisford for disorderly conduct and have the state take his child.
You're about to be arrested for resisting arrest.
No, I'm not resisting
Yes,
anything.
well, yeah. Right now you're being detained.
For
okay?
what?
You're being detained.
I told you why I stopped you already, sir.
For putting my middle finger up. That's
Yeah,
correct?
no,
correct.
no. Exactly.
For you extended your arm out the window.
No, I had my
Yes,
middle
you
finger
did.
out the window.
Okay, let's get your ID.
You had your middle finger out the window, okay?
The officers issued a citation under a law that governs hand signals for non-motorized vehicles like bicycles. The charge was later dropped. In written submissions to the court, the attorneys for the officers involved denied any wrongdoing. In a written statement, a Delaware State Police spokesperson said the incident was subject to an internal affairs investigation, and a trooper involved was disciplined in line with department policy. The spokesperson noted the ongoing lawsuit, but declined to share any details. But what happens when an officer knocks on your door and tries to get in forcefully?
Ma'am, listen, that is
You
not how...
need to leave out of my house.
Stop.
On June 28, 2019, Barnum responded to an apartment in the 3700 block of West 25th Street on a report of a complaint involving a 16-year-old boy. Perez's son had called Weld County Dispatch from the apartment complex's main office to report he missed a court date that morning in Adams County because his mother had kicked him out of the house and refused to drive him to his hearing.
Literally just walked in the house. It's been my sister, and he actually hasn't been allowed in my house because he did this the last time, and I had to do a well check because I was at work. So I did tell her not to open the door if he came back.
You can't do that.
Okay, well, either way, he has warrant out for his arrest, so you guys can deal with it.
The boy and the nature of his criminal case in Adams County are not being identified because he is a minor. When Barnum arrived at the apartment, Perez stepped outside into the hallway, and the two had a conversation about her son. Perez told Barnum she had just returned from Adams County, where her son had a court hearing but failed to appear. Thinking he was investigating a possible child neglect case, Barnum asked why Perez kicked her son out of the house. Perez responded by saying her son is a runaway who is constantly getting into trouble with the law. She also said her son has violent tendencies and has been violent around her 2 small children, ages 2 and 3 years old.
So first off, he's kicked my door down before. Okay. The whole entire thing. The other day I was at work, and I can't leave work to come and see what's going on. I have small baby children here, and he did this to my door while I was gone.
Perez pointed out damage to the front door her son caused in the past, trying to break into the apartment. She noted on another occasion her son kicked the front door off of its hinges. Barnum then interrupted by saying, inaccurately, that as a resident of the apartment and a minor, Perez's son had every right to be inside the home, even if it meant kicking the door down to gain entry.
Am I kicking him out now? Yeah, he has a warrant out for his arrest. He's not welcome in my home until he gets that taken care of.
You can't do that.
Yes, I can.
No,
He's
cannot.
A fugitive. Yes, I can.
Listen,
yes,
listen.
I can. What?
I listen to you.
Okay, what?
You can call us if he comes, but you cannot say you can't come in. And if you lock him out, he can kick your door to get in because he lives here.
Perez disagreed and attempted to end the conversation by walking back into her apartment. But Barnum prevented Perez from closing the door with his foot in an attempt to keep the conversation going. Perez quickly turned and pushed Barnum back out into the hallway. He grabbed her arms and placed Perez in handcuffs, telling her she was under arrest for harassment or possibly for assaulting an officer.
Close that door. What am I under arrest
Stop,
for?
you're under, because you just shoved me.
I did not shove you. I told you
It's
to
on
get out
video.
of my... I told you to get...
It's on video.
You have no right to come into my home. You have absolutely no right to come into my home.
That's really 4th of July in custody.
Barnum placed Perez in the back of his cruiser, at which point she demanded to speak with his supervisor, Sergeant Wade Corliss. About an hour later, after numerous conversations with Barnum and his own bosses, Corliss directed Barnum to free Perez. So what happens when you're well within your rights, but cops come up and harass you anyway?
You said you're asking the customers for money and stuff like that.
On December 14th, 2021, Army veteran Jeff was in downtown New Smyrna Beach, Florida, raising awareness for his God Bless the Homeless Veterans outreach program on a public sidewalk. As the sidewalk was right in front of a brewing company, the manager came out and told him to stop, even though he had no right to tell him that. When Jeff ignored his command, he called the cops on him.
I appreciate what you're doing, but I can't have you doing it here. I'm sorry. No soliciting out here.
I'm going to stay here. God put it in my heart to do this, so I'm going to stay right here and do this.
And I could call the police too, but I don't want to do that.
I don't want you to do that either.
Talk to you man to man, you know?
God put it in my heart to stand here on the public sidewalk. You don't own the sidewalk?
We do right up to here, actually.
Officer Galt of the New Smyrna Beach PD came up and initiated an unnecessary confrontation.
They just don't want you up here anymore.
I don't care. It's not, no, they don't have the authority to tell me not to be here.
They said you're asking for money and stuff like that.
That's what they said. I say I'm not asking for money.
Okay, well, they said you're up front. So can you just go somewhere else?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not going somewhere. God put it in my heart to stand right here, and I'm staying right here.
Jeff was then falsely accused of doing things that he certainly did not do. But he defended himself like a pro, as he was well aware of his rights.
Is there a reason why you're running this business?
Not particularly this business. I'm just on the public sidewalk.
Okay, and you're not asking for money?
I am not asking for money.
Okay, your sign doesn't say it, so I don't know.
No.
Have you asked anybody for money?
But I mean, I'll tell you, my name is Jeff. What's your name?
Officer Galt.
Officer what?
Galt.
G-A-U-L-T?
G-A-L-T. You haven't asked for money or anything like that?
I'm not going to answer any questions.
Okay.
Then came in Officer Beatty, who went a little over the top while trying to make logical arguments.
Okay, they're saying that you were asking for money. Okay, so they have every right to have you moved along. Since we're here because they called for you, we have to identify you.
He made up false rights to try and intimidate Jeff into giving up his ID.
I'm not giving you any ID.
You'll go to jail.
I'm not giving you any ID. Like I showed him. I got my ID in my pocket. This is my ID.
You want me to play that game?
They then detained him unlawfully, while the veteran displayed an exceptionally calm and cooperative demeanor.
I am armed lawfully. I have a concealed carry permit.
Where's it at?
Here's my hands. It's in my pocket.
Front pocket?
Yeah. Here's my hands. All right. Matter of fact, once you guys just put me in cuffs, I don't want any problems.
After seeing that Jeff wasn't resisting at all, they suddenly tried to be friendly with him, but ended up making more absurd statements.
When you don't want to identify yourself and we're called, it's totally different if we're driving by, and that's you over there, right? Mm-hmm. You're not requesting anything on your sign. You're not breaking any laws. When they complain to dispatch that you're asking for money, there are customers who are telling the staff that, that is against the law.
Officer Beatty came back after having a word with the complainer and some of the customers and reiterated the same story he was told by Jeff in the first place.
Hey, your sign doesn't say anything about me. I just asked the guy who's sitting on the lawn, and he says he didn't hear you beg for money. And so the only person who has a complaint about you standing on city property, which is not his problem, which is what I was explaining to him.
I just wanted to stand there on the sidewalk.
He was finally let go, and all of his property was returned.